In the third year of marrying Christian, I was knocked down by his little girl, unexpectedly awakening the memories of a vicious supporting character. According to the nurturing plot, the little girl is about to turn 18 and must confess her feelings to her beloved little uncle. I went crazy trying to make trouble for the female lead, finally causing their relationship to erupt like a volcano, breaking through all obstacles, loving each other to the point of life and death. We were both kidnapped at the same time, and Christian thought I was behind it, unhesitatingly saving the little girl. In the end, my body was bitten off by a great white shark, and even the fetus in my womb was never known to anyone. Chapter 1. Baby, I'm sorry. Mommy couldn't bring you into this world. The great white shark opened its bloody maw and bit down on my abdomen, which was protecting me. Crimson blood spread in the ocean, staining the evening glow at the horizon. Christian held the frightened April in his arms, coldly watching my body being dragged deeper into the ocean. Uncle, I'm so scared. It's wrong for Auntie to have someone kidnap me, but she died such a tragic death. The ethereal man gently stroked her hair tips and kissed her softly. I don't blame you. She brought this upon herself. The two of them left, dragging their enchanting figures behind, like a pair of perfect lovers. My soul struggles in the icy depths of the sea, until a pair of soft, small hands reached out to me, sweetly calling me mommy. I jolted awake. I found myself lying in a hospital. 3 days ago, April returned from America. She is Christian's benefactor's daughter, calling him uncle. That day, Christian had an important meeting in City B and asked me to pick her up. The little girl, not seeing her, longed for uncle, thought I was deliberately being mean, and stomped her feet in anger, wanting to leave. I was thinking that if the person didn't come home, it would be hard to explain. I rushed forward, but she pushed me hard, causing a mild concussion. Christian called to ask, saying the little girl was crying uncontrollably, asking me what happened. I only mentioned the important parts. He apologized to me, admitting that April was abandoned by her mother at a young age, and her father left early, leaving her without a sense of security. I will definitely teach her well when I turn back. The doctor said the injury wasn't serious and suggested rest, but I feel the problem is quite serious. Chapter 2. I haven't lost my memory, but a large segment of the plot has emerged in my mind. We live in a novel titled The Handbook of Developing Romantic Relationships. April is the female lead, whose father was Christian's first bodyguard and died saving him. Christian is the male lead, who, at the age of 20, took in a girl 10 years younger than him. 3 years ago, I married Christian. He sent the female lead to America for school, until April returned home at 18. She was about to confess her feelings to the male lead. As the malicious female antagonist, I would make things difficult for the young girl. At first, Christian claimed it was to repay the debt of gratitude for saving his life that he continuously supported April. But in my eyes, it was the young girl who developed an illicit love for her uncle, becoming increasingly reckless in her desire for revenge. The young girl is very good at being coy. Her complaints made Christian more and more disappointed in me, secretly wanting a divorce. I disagreed, causing chaos in the house. April and I were both kidnapped at the same time. She cried out that it was me who did it, and Christian believed her, letting me fall into the sea, to be bitten to death by a great white shark. The male and female leads endure life and death trials, breaking free from the shackles of society, and happily hold hands. I didn't even manage to pull the body ashore, dying alone in the depths of the ocean. It's deadly. What a cliché plot. Christian and I are in a business marriage, but I truly love him. Chapter 3. Christian is 5 years older than me. In elementary and middle school, we were in the same school. Christian was the star of the school, the captain of the basketball team, the source of cosmic light. When I learned that my marriage partner was the senior I had a crush on for many years, my heart felt like a mischievous little rabbit jumping around. 3 years into our marriage, Christian is a career-focused man, yet he treats me very well. His black card covers my expenses. He gifts me jewelry on my birthday and anniversaries, and he never forgets to have his secretary order me nourishing soup during my period. We are very in sync even in bed, calm and composed. He sometimes resembles a surging tide, and at other times, a moist Gene wind, in every aspect. Christian pays great attention to my feelings and never interferes when I go to the auction house to bring home the antiques and jewelry I like. But such a perfect man would let me drown in the sea for a delicate little girl. Is it a fantasy, or a premonition of a nightmare? Chapter 4. I won't give up. Find someone to investigate April, whom I had never cared about. The moment I received the information, a chill deep in my heart. On the day of the wedding, Christian was absent. At that time, he said there was an unexpected issue with a $100 billion order that needed immediate attention. Since it was a business marriage, no one blamed the groom. Later, Christian gave me a $30 million necklace as compensation. I only now realize that he couldn't make it back in time because he was taking April to America for school. She was afraid to stay alone in the luxurious apartment and begged her uncle to stay with her for the night. On my birthday in the second year of our marriage, Christian was absent again. He said there was a crisis in the North American market that required his personal attention, and had his secretary hand me the black card. Actually, at that time, it was April who caught a slight cold, crying and fussing for her father. Christian spent over 10 hours on a plane, resolutely arriving by her side. My chest felt tight and painful. I suddenly understood a saying: when you trust someone unreservedly, there are ultimately two outcomes. Either you gain the person of your life, or you receive a harsh lesson from fate. I pinched myself hard. Love can be absent, but life cannot be discarded. Chapter 5. The private doctor walked in and handed me a test result. Miss Liu, congratulations. You are pregnant. It took me a full minute to react. When the plot was triggered, April had the kidnappers push me into the sea, saying that Christian would definitely save her. I felt as if I were in the icy sea, shivering all over. Dr. Lin looked puzzled. Your constitution is quite good. You shouldn't be so afraid of the cold. I nearly laughed to the point of tears. After 3 years of marriage, many people ask me why we still don't have children. Christian explained that I fell into an ice lake while skiing as a child, and we should wait until I am healthy. I thought that was concern, until I saw April's Twitter. Uncle, please don't want that woman's baby. Can you wait until I grow up a bit? No wonder every time. Christian does everything so well. Only a month ago, he kissed me fiercely when he was drunk, asking for it over and over again, seeing me slowly place my hand on my belly, looking completely bewildered. Dr. Lin cautiously asked, Miss Liu, what are your plans for this child? Mom had a difficult labor when giving birth to my sister. She thought I was scared. I remember being buried in the deep sea, my whole body entangled in seaweed. A little girl used her teeth to fiercely bite through my bindings, smiling and telling me not to be afraid, giving me a rebirth. I took a deep breath and whispered, first, help me keep it a secret. Walking out of the hospital, I looked at the gray, hazy sky. Years of unrequited love, 3 years of sharing a bed, plus an embryo that is currently developing. Can I really not compete with the nurturing type female lead? I want to give Christian a chance. Chapter 6. When I got home, the housekeeper Aunt Wang came out with an angry expression. Madam, you have finally returned. April had just put down her luggage when someone asked to take down the wedding photos of Christian and me. Her ideas have always been grand. She held the tarot cards and said the photos were bad for the feng shui and must be smashed and moved away. April had lived in the Law family villa for 5 years, while Christian was often on business trips, and the servants all listened to her. She directed the demolition while criticizing my taste. Where did this ugly vase come from? It's hideous. I watched coldly. That was a vase I had brought back from 2 centuries ago, worth several million. Seeing me walk into the living room, April didn't call me, but instead covered her nose and complained, the smell of disinfectant is unbearable. As soon as she finished speaking, Christian walked in, dressed in a handmade suit. He saw April at first glance and locked eyes with her for several seconds. The little girl joyfully dove into the man's arms like a fledgling returning to its nest. Uncle, I finally get to see you. I suddenly let out a cold laugh. Locking eyes is a kiss devoid of any desire. In the house, there were still me and Aunt Wang. The only person Christian saw at first glance was April. Christian gently pushed her aside and quickly walked towards me. Wife, I'm sorry I didn't have time to visit you at the hospital. How's your wound? April looked extremely displeased, very unhappy with my presence. She pushed me away and reached out to help him loosen his tie. Uncle, you've worked hard all day. Why not take a shower first? I'll run the water for you. I know exactly what temperature you like. Aunt Wong cleared her throat awkwardly, her gaze directed at my expressionless face. Christian's face stiffened as he pushed her away again. No need. Let the servants handle these matters. April's eyes turned red at the corners. Her legs went weak, and she fell backward. Christian quickly moved forward, steadying her by the waist. Ah! She instinctively clung to his neck, acting spoiled and refusing to let go. I suppressed the bitterness in my throat, not wanting to stay in the same space with them any longer. Just as I reached the backyard, I saw the bulldozer parked in the garden. The roses I had carefully nurtured for 3 years were completely crushed. Looking back, April was curled up in Christian's arms, looking quite pleased with herself. Chapter 7. My face turned pale. Aunt Wong quickly explained. Miss Jean said she has a pollen allergy. Thus, my carefully nurtured flowers were uprooted. Christian was young and accomplished, with a meticulous mind, handling everything with great care. It was obvious that April's actions were meant to vie for attention. Aunt Wong had said that Miss Jean was temperamental and had previously stirred up 2 or 3 scandals for Christian, just to prove her position in his heart. But the young master did not hold it against him. At that time, I was not clear. Not long after returning to the country, I had a blind date with Christian. After meeting 3 times, he agreed to his father's arrangement to marry into the Liu family and quickly send April abroad for studies. I didn't know when the man had walked to my side. His gaze lowered. Wife, it's April who is at fault. She didn't ask for your consent before ruining the flowers and plants. I will definitely compensate you. He called the girl in a deep voice. Come here. Apologize to your little aunt. April looked bewildered, then immediately sniffed hard. Uncle, she knows I'm allergic to pollen, yet she plants so many roses at home, clearly wanting my life. The little girl's eyes were getting redder. The more she spoke, the more wronged she felt. Christian's tone softened. I chuckled lightly. April has posted flowers on Twitter more than once. For Valentine's Day, Mid-Autumn Festival, and Children's Day, expensive flowers dressed up like dolls were sent to the American villa. If she were allergic to pollen, she would have probably died long ago. In the plot, this was the first conflict between April and me. Roses were my mother's favorite flowers. The first few plants were left by her. I transplanted them from the Liu family. Seeing my hard work and longing destroyed, I slapped April hard across the face. Christian held her in his arms, patiently explaining that she was just being willful. Let me not bicker with a child. Later, the various conflicts between me and April. It was merely an early seed planted, which, given the chance, would grow wildly. Chapter 8. I did not explode immediately. If April is the heroine of the world, acting rashly would only lead to another pointless death. I passed by Christian with a blank expression and turned to go upstairs. April seemed unfazed, chattering away as she directed the servants to move the luggage to the master bedroom next door on the 2nd floor. Aunt Wong, seeing my poor complexion, hurriedly brought me some nourishing soup. She closed the door and leaned in closer to me. Jean watched from the corner as the bodyguard protected the young master when he died. She always says she can't forget the bloody scenes and needs to be close to the young master to feel safe. Several times at night, I had nightmares and rushed into Christian's room without a second thought. I don't understand. April is afraid of this and that. Why did Christian send her abroad? Because the lady wanted to marry into the family at that time. Got it. A mountain cannot accommodate 2 tigers. Christian spends half his time flying around the world. He must be afraid I would bully the little girl. That's why he took her away. Looking back now, he really protected her tightly. Chapter 9. Christian had a 2-hour video conference in the study. Just as I reached the 2nd floor, April ran over and hugged his arm. Uncle, I wanted to cut some cantaloupe for you just now, but I accidentally hurt my finger. The little girl's pained voice halted Christian's steps back to his room. Are you going to cut it yourself? April pouted. I haven't been back for 3 years. and the servants at home no longer listened to me. I asked Aunt Wang to prepare foot bath water for me, but she hesitated and said she needed to serve the lady. In her words, she accused me of being cruel and abusive. Christian paused, personally took out a band-aid, and carefully applied it for her. A chill ran through my heart, and I self-deprecatingly curled my lips. It seems that the plot really cannot be changed. From now on, these matters will probably become more and more numerous. Christian usually treats me well, but when his beloved little girl returns, he forgets everything else. Originally, I still tried to salvage the marriage. Now it seems, there was no need. Chapter 10. I lay on one side of the bed, with a large empty space in between. Christian lay down beside me and asked, "Did April say that the housekeeper is disobedient? Is that true? Is this person blind or deaf?" April commanded everyone in the house to move luggage up and down, and even brought in a bulldozer to destroy my flowers. Is that not considered obedient? Do you still want to go to heaven? I can't be bothered to speak, seeing that I remained silent. Christian leaned in, forcefully turning my body to make me meet his gaze. "The rose is gone. You're feeling down, aren't you? I had the secretary contact the florist whom my mother-in-law loved the most. He will definitely find the best flowers for you." "What good is that? Your little girl is allergic to pollen. No matter how many you plant, it's all in vain." "Helen, don't get me wrong. April can be a bit temperamental, but the family doctor said she has no allergies. Look, he clearly knows everything, yet he can't bring himself to scold me. So, did my flower white die?" I felt even angrier inside. Christian extended his arm, wanting to pull me into his embrace. "Let go of me. Let's talk properly." We agreed to solve problems at night. Christian was 28 at the time, but he had taken on responsibilities early, pulling the nearly bankrupt law family back from the brink, securing a place in City A. Being good at solving problems is a trait of the strong. For 3 years, he protected me very well, so much so that I almost forgot. My childhood self was like a little figure in a music box, forever trapped in a dark wooden box. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, my mom became pregnant with her second child. Dad had an affair and brought Auntie home. In the struggle, my mom lost her footing and fell down the stairs, resulting in a premature birth and severe bleeding, leading to 2 deaths. Auntie gave birth to a son, moved in, and took all of Dad's love. After that day, my world was filled only with the light that seeped through the door crack. Christian knows about these past events. Not long after the arranged marriage, he demanded that Dad give me half of the shares, or he would stop cooperating. He treats me very well and never forces me to return to Lou's home during holidays. But such a perfect person will ultimately slip through one's fingers. Chapter 11. In a daze, a scorching kiss lingered on my neck. I struggled to get up, but he had no intention of letting me go, gripping my wrists against the headboard with one hand while the other tore off my silk nightgown. I thought of the baby in my womb and said sternly, "Let go." Perhaps having been in power for too long, few dared to defy Christian. He pinched my chin and kissed me forcefully. "Helen Lou, this is a marital obligation." I felt as if I had been stripped bare in public. Shame and anger are hard to bear. I slapped him across the face and shot a fierce glare at Christian. His face remained calm. "Helen, do you have any grievances against me? I know the rose was given to you by your mother-in-law, but I have already taught April a lesson. A few light insults, not painful or itchy. Can that be considered a reprimand?" The chill on my face did not lessen. "On the day of the wedding, you were absent. On my second birthday after marriage, you were also not there. I want to ask, where were you at that time?" Christian struggled to speak. After Jean's older brother passed away, April's emotions fluctuated between good and bad. The doctor said she has tendencies towards depression, so I sent her to America for treatment. Those 2 times were April cutting her wrists, insisting on seeing me, otherwise she wouldn't cooperate with the treatment. As expected, no matter the reason, he has left me for another. I got out of bed and put on my clothes to leave. Christian gripped me tightly. Under the orange light, his facial features were clear and profound. "It's late at night. Where do you want to go?" I feel a pang of soreness in my eyes. North Bun. Chapter 12. The door just opened. April appeared in a fluffy pink camisole, the girl's beautiful body, slender yet curvy. Uncle. I dreamt of Dad again. He was stabbed dozens of times, covered in blood. She cried, her shoulders trembling, looking so pitiful. Seeing me standing at the door, April bit her lip tightly. Auntie, when I used to have nightmares, it was Uncle who comforted me. Tonight, can you sleep in the guest room? Please do. I scoffed coldly and turned to go downstairs. Christian was just about to catch up when April grabbed his sleeve. Uncle, it's pouring outside. Where are you going? I walked quickly, seeing April in disarray. It seemed Christian was struggling to contain his anger. Put your clothes on. I'll call the psychologist over. But with such a great opportunity at hand, how could a determined person let it slip away? April held onto Christian's arm tightly, her peach-like body intentionally rubbing against him. My eyes burned with anger as I let out a cold snort and slammed the door shut. Only Christian stood there with a grim expression, frozen in place. Chapter 13. North Bun is the dowry my father gave me for this 500 square meter house. Auntie has said countless bitter words. To be fair, when my mother was alive, my father loved me dearly, but the inherent flaws of men destined them to never give up the pursuit of novelty. Auntie worried I would hurt her son and urged my father to throw the teenage me into independent life in England. I have long been deprived of the capital to be willful. If it weren't for Christian holding a torch, pulling me out of the dark cave, giving me tenderness and warmth, I would never have fallen in love. The plot awakens. Cutting ties sooner is the best strategy. Better than Christian insulting and hurting me time and again for April. I slept in a daze until the afternoon of the second day. Christian called several times, explaining that he had to go on a business trip and would come back to take me home. Let Aunt Wong come over to take care of me. Chapter 14. After half an hour, Aunt Wong came in with a big bag of soup ingredients while I was talking to the lawyer. Miss Liu, I have drafted the divorce agreement as per your request. Please see if there is anything that needs to be added. I will take the jewelry and antiques he gifted me, but I don't want the remaining shares and the Law family villa. As for the cooperation between the two families, let their men resolve it themselves. Aunt Wong was dumbfounded. Madam, did I hear wrong? You want to divorce the sir? Yes. Looking at the astonished person before me, I recalled her role in the original book's ending. Aunt Wong has worked at the Law family for many years and can be said to have watched Christian grow up. April was dissatisfied that she relied on her seniority to manage the household and still stood by my side. After I died, she found a reason for theft and took advantage of a rainy night to force Aunt Wong out of the house. Aunt Wong contracted severe typhoid, and April found someone to obstruct her treatment. Christian returned from his business trip wanting to bring her back, but unfortunately, he was a step too late. Aunt Wong passed away from her illness. Christian found out the reason and exploded in anger at April. She clung to a man, crying that she was young, and when she heard the servant accuse Aunt Wong of stealing, she believed it, promising it wouldn't happen again. For the daughter of a benefactor, Christian simply couldn't bring himself to be cruel. It could only end without resolution, giving Aunt Wong a luxurious grave. But Aunt Wong had no children, and Christian was busy expanding his business empire, leaving the memorial duties to April. In the end, there wasn't even a single person to offer incense. Chapter 15. Seeing my sympathetic gaze, Aunt Wong approached. Madam, did you divorce your husband for Miss Jean? No need to say more. I know it must be so. If it were me, I couldn't help it either. The way he indulges Miss Jean is simply too much. She counted April the antiques left by Law her grandfather, bullying classmates, and nearly slashing the face of the woman who was set up with Christian with shards of porcelain. The gentleman is good at everything, but he cares too much about repaying kindness. To put it bluntly, the Jean bodyguard is paid by the Law family, and it is his duty to risk his life to save his master. The gentleman insists on listening to the Jean bodyguard, promising to take care of Miss Jean for a lifetime, believing that her troubles stem from losing her parents and her difficult fate. But back then, without the Jean bodyguard, there were still Lin and Wu bodyguards. What's the point of hiring a security company if everyone is just seeking to repay favors? Well said. In their position, they should fulfill their duties. Ultimately, it's Christian who has feelings for April that go beyond mere uncle and niece. Aunt Wang still felt indignant. Madam, it's the sir who has wronged you. You should take everything. As for Miss April, madam, feel free to act boldly. The rest will be left to karma. I raised an eyebrow. You have quite a deep grudge against her. Don't mention it. I only have one life. But there are more than one thing that wants my life. When April just moved to La's house, she insisted on eating Aunt Wang's braised lion's head in the middle of the night. And in the dead of winter, she insisted that Aunt Wang buy peaches for summer. If it can't be done, she would shout for Christian to fire someone. I laughed out loud. How can you endure it? The gentleman is generous. Someone as impulsive as me. He knows he should pay me a good sum to calm me down. I couldn't laugh anymore. Christian never interferes with my spending limit on the black card. Perhaps he just doesn't want me to get upset when I find out he is equally generous to April. Chapter 16. After I left La's house, April caused even more trouble. She competed with me for jewelry at the auction house, sending someone to France to customize a dress for her coming-of-age ceremony, costing 8 figures. Aunt Wang secretly gasped. How many lives does the gentleman owe the Jean family to let Miss Jean spend money faster than turning on a faucet? Christian is a career-focused person. He doesn't forget to keep an eye on financial news even while having breakfast. His wealth skyrocketing every minute. But he is only interested in making money. The suit on his body, the shoes on his feet, the tie around his neck, all carefully selected by me. Compared to his billions, April's spending is barely a drop in the bucket. However, there are limits to actions and boundaries to words. Christian's unbounded indulgence allowed April to cultivate even greater ambitions. I collected his affection and favors towards the little girl as leverage for the divorce negotiations. April showcased Christian's love on Twitter, which attracted countless girls. Baby, is your anonymous uncle a millionaire? If someone is willing to give me $1 million every month, I wouldn't mind being a mistress, or even a minor mistress. She was beaming with pride. Uncle is mine, so don't get any strange ideas. I wanted to drink authentic sour plum soup in America. He immediately had someone airlift it over. I felt my eyes sting and my heart ache. I recalled the time in middle school when Christian returned to give a speech as an outstanding graduate. It was the height of summer, and I was waiting under the scorching sun with flowers in hand. When he got out of the Bentley, I, punished by my stepmother and deprived of sleep for a night, nearly fainted from heat stroke. Christian just happened to have sour plum soup in the car and handed me a bottle. In this world, love is nothing more than a bowl of Jean white porcelain plum soup. The sound of crushed ice hitting the wall. In this world, love's tribulations are nothing more than the bitter taste of fresh yellow bitter herbs under a 3/9 black tile, with sweet hearts sinking to the bottom. I caress my belly, trying hard to eat the nutritious meals and stews made by Aunt Wang. Tears roll down onto the steaming rice, salty and bitter. I wonder if the baby will be disappointed. Chapter 17. April the night before turning 18. Christian came back. She cheered on Twitter. I knew Uncle wouldn't miss the significant events in my life. Tomorrow night, I want him to see the purest jasmine in the world. I almost threw up. The doorbell rang. Christian stood at the door, looking weary. He looked tired. But when he saw me, a smile crept onto his face. Wife, I miss you. Thinking about it is actually quite absurd. Christian is humble and reserved. Only when he's moved will he say things in bed that make me blush. Hearing those words, I couldn't tell if he was trying to coax me home with a kind gesture or if he had done something behind my back to make up for it. No matter what, I will not compromise again. Seeing that I did not respond, Christian was somewhat surprised. His phone rang abruptly. It was April calling. Aunt Wang had somehow come over. At over 50, she is a 5G surfing expert, fully aware of the latest internet memes. Madam, pay attention. The woman calling is up to no good. She is about to play tricks to summon the husband back home. Sure enough, April sobbed softly. Uncle, today is Dad's death anniversary. The wind is so strong here at the villa that it has blown the curtains up. It must be him coming back to see me. Can you come home right away? Christian glanced at me. Later, I said with a half smile. No need to wait. I'll give you some documents, and you can leave. Chapter 18. I handed over the divorce agreement. Christian looked down for a moment. His calm demeanor shifted as his expression changed. Helen, are you going to divorce me? Yes. He looked at me with deep eyes, calmly sitting on the sofa, legs crossed, still dignified. Reason? As expected of a domineering CEO, his expression quickly returned to normal as he took on a negotiating stance. I threw the organized evidence onto the coffee table. There are photos of him taking time out of his busy schedule to fly to America, accompanying April to Universal Studios, as well as the receipts for the designer bags and expensive clothes he bought for April. Of course, there are also April's passionate declarations on Twitter. Christian rarely showed a confused expression. What's wrong with this? You hired the highest-rated private detective to investigate your husband for these trivial matters? Being framed, I almost laughed in anger. Don't turn misunderstanding into slander against others. I believe what you did to April went beyond the bond of an uncle and niece without blood relation. Christian was momentarily stunned. I don't know what you're angry about, but you should understand that April's father was my savior. Back then, he could have rushed home before his daughter's birthday, but sensing that something was wrong, he chose to stay and ultimately lost his life. In his view, the living owe a debt to the dead. April's father was stabbed dozens of times, his body riddled with wounds. Before he died, the tall man pleaded with law to take care of his daughter. What was wrong with that? I let out a cold laugh and accidentally flipped the cup. Scalding tea splashed, with a few drops landing on my hand. The back of my hand instantly turned red. Christian looked tense. There are some things we need to discuss. Did the hot water hurt you? Let me see. I don't understand. How could he share the same tenderness between two women? April posted on Twitter that after she cut her wrists in America, Uncle held her icy hand in his palm like this. Shouldn't love be about favoritism? Chapter 19. My thoughts were chaotic, and I pushed Christian away with force. There's nothing to communicate. I want a divorce. I don't want to bury a ticking time bomb in my lonely life. Christian's eyes turned cold. Helen, stop messing around. I can't have inappropriate thoughts about a girl I've raised. Hurry up and pack your things to come back with me. No, you insist on getting a divorce. Have you thought about how you'll live after leaving me? Is this a threat now? First of all, my father definitely won't let me off the hook. He needs to save more money for his precious son. Secondly, I can no longer buy whatever I want at the auction house, and I can't return to my previous circle. In the end, once Mrs. Law relinquished her position, a multitude of people rushed to take her seat. But I don't care. Compared to my life, wealth and power are just fleeting illusions. April continued to urge from the other end of the phone. I stood aggressively at the doorway. Want to leave? Sign the divorce agreement first. Christian looked irritated, appearing very agitated. Very well. He gritted his teeth, writing his name on the divorce agreement I had already signed. Not even glancing at the specific contents, I shouted at the man's retreating figure. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock at the Civil Affairs Bureau. If you don't come, you're a little dog. Christian stopped in his tracks, his steps faltering. I slammed the door with a deafening bang. Aunt Wang softly handed over a tissue. Don't cry. No one wants watered-down pork. I came back to my senses. Are you calling me a pig? If I had known this, I wouldn't have agreed to your demands on the divorce agreement. Madam, you know very well that your husband spends money most freely, yet you wouldn't even take all his wealth. Who is the pig if not you? Very well. I have been subtly insulted. Chapter 20. To gamble on a whim. I set the time to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau for the divorce at the April party start time. She took my wedding, and I stole her coming-of-age ceremony. That's only fair. But by 5 in the afternoon, Christian still hadn't shown up. Dog man. I called him many times, but he didn't answer. I put him on my blacklist. Just as I was preparing to storm back to the law house to demand answers, April suddenly stood in front of me. She wore an expensive sapphire necklace around her neck. It looked somewhat similar to the one in my treasure box. The girl held her head high with pride. Did you stop Uncle from attending my birthday party? Old woman. I'm 18 now. I can officially be with him. If you know what's good for you, Leave immediately and give Mrs. Law's position to someone else. I raised an eyebrow. So what if you're 18? You won't live to my age. April was furious. Stop talking nonsense. Uncle didn't want to reveal his love for me because I was underage. Otherwise, how could he give me expensive jewelry? How could he let me live in the big house he bought in America? My heart felt as if countless needles were stabbing it. A fine, dense pain. She caught sight of the necklace around my neck and came over frantically to snatch it. No, what I originally wanted was this one. It's 10 times more expensive than the one I'm wearing now. How did it end up in your hands? I sneered. It was given to me by your uncle. It was the time when Christian was absent from the wedding. She went mad trying to come over and grab it. I unceremoniously slapped her hard across the face. April covered her face, looking at me in disbelief. Bitch. How dare you hit me? I was afraid of hurting the fetus, so I signaled Aunt Wang to come forward. Aunt Wang is not young, but she is very strong. She pinched April's chin, swinging left and right, taking into account both new grudges and old grievances, hitting the girl's face until it sounded like firecrackers. April cried out in pain. Aunt Wang shoved her to the ground, and in her anger, she lost her words and shouted, "If I had known you were this wild, I should have been more ruthless with the drug back then." I didn't understand for a moment, but that didn't stop me from viciously stepping on April's delicate, fair hand with my heel. The evil you have done, I will investigate. Don't think that with Christian protecting you, everything will be fine. Chapter 21. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Christian appeared, his figure slightly swaying, even from a distance. I could smell the alcohol on him. April ran over, looking pitiful and acting cute. Uncle, the woman you married has a wicked heart. If you hadn't arrived in time, I might have been killed and dismembered. I pulled April over forcefully and slapped her twice decisively. A tooth fell out. Christian was quite drunk, but his self-control had always been strong. The man grabbed my raised hand tightly. All right, April. She's still a child. I didn't hold back, yanking Christian's hair and slamming him against the wall. What a brat. I can't care about that anymore. After all, I'm the vicious female supporting character, so I'll show them my vicious side. April exclaimed loudly, "Uncle, are you okay?" I couldn't be bothered to respond and slammed the door shut. Chapter 22. The next day, Aunt Wang was startled when she went out to buy groceries. "Young master, why are you still here?" Christian's tie was loosened, his expensive suit jacket wrinkled, and there was quite a bit of mud on his pant legs. It looked like he had spent the night at the door. He had a face full of grievance. "Helen, what did I do wrong? You are the one who initiated the divorce and were so ruthless about it. Christian had a large bump on the back of his head. He didn't call the police, nor did he let the family doctor come to handle it. The key point is that even April is missing. It's really strange. Yesterday, I had someone replant the roses at the villa. I wanted to give you a surprise, but you didn't answer your phone or reply to my messages. He just got closer. The lingering scent of pine on him reminds me of the nights when he held me in his arms. But at this moment, all I want to do is vomit. Seeing me turn away as if to retch. Christian looked hurt. Am I already at the point of making you sick? I held my breath, thinking that a quick pain is better than a long one, and gritted my teeth. That's right. Let's hurry to the Civil Affairs Bureau and cut ties. Is it just because I missed the wedding and your birthday? Yes. Christian was very agitated. He lowered his head and murmured, "We have been married for 3 years, and whenever I am at home, you would personally dress me in the new suit you bought, watch the servants prepare soup for me, and cover me with a blanket when you see me asleep in the study. I thought you loved me. Tears flowed down uncontrollably. I love you, but I love myself even more. I cannot tolerate my husband sharing the affection that belongs solely to his wife with another woman. The sea erodes the cliffs, day and night. The tides change, and eventually, it will lead to a collapse that darkens the sky." Christian held me in his arms. "I will not divorce. I will arrange a good education and life for April when she grows up, and I will no longer contact her. I promise there will be no favoritism that you care about." He is a smart man and knows what I care about, but I know he will definitely lose, because the pursuit of novelty is a man's eternal obsession. Chapter 23. Perhaps I have jumped out of the plot. The kidnapping happened early. April and I were both tied up on the ship, surrounded by the vast sea, bottomless. I took a deep breath, like a nightmare replaying. April crying, "It's all your fault for flaunting at the auction house every day. Being discovered as a rich woman, which got me kidnapped too, in the last life." She also pushed the responsibility of being taken away by the bandits onto me. But clearly, the one who planned everything is April. On the way here, Christian negotiated with the kidnappers. "You want money. I can give you 100 million. Little did he know. The kidnapper laughed heartily. Law is always generous. But besides being greedy for money, I love seeing others in unbearable pain the most. Transfer the money, and I'll allow you to save one person. The other unfortunate one can take a dip in the sea first. Whether she can survive depends on her fate." My gaze grew colder. Chapter 24. Christian, following the bandits' demands, drove the yacht alone into international waters, shouting across the distance, "Let everyone go." The bandits pushed both me and April to the bow of the boat. "The money has been received. Now it's Law's turn to choose one." April cried pitifully, "Uncle, you promised Dad that you would let me live healthily until I'm 99. Christian showed a look of reluctance. He hesitated for a moment, gazing at me with deep affection, and spoke with difficulty. "Helen, I know you can swim, but April cannot. Don't worry, I will definitely save you." In the plot, Christian gave up the reason for choosing me. Besides believing that April claimed I was the one who instigated it, it was also because I had some swimming skills, while she did not. He thought that if I fell into the sea, I could hold on a little longer until the rescue team arrived, and that would allow me to survive. But if a person truly has another in their heart, how could they allow even the slightest mishap to occur? Don't mention the great white sharks in the sea. Just the undertow and rip currents could be fatal even for someone familiar with the water. Not to mention that I am pregnant. Christian's gaze fell on me, filled with deep concern. Just as the thug was about to push me into the sea, Aunt Wong quietly appeared from the other side of the yacht, leading two exceptionally skilled young men to kick him and April into the sea together. I knew this would happen, so I made arrangements in advance. Things happened too quickly. Christian came over to comfort the frightened me, completely forgetting that April was floundering in the sea. Aunt Wong stopped the young men from saving her. April couldn't hold on any longer and struggled to swim back to the boat. She was kicked a few more times by Aunt Wong, forced underwater and swallowed a bellyful of water. Helicopters and rescue yachts quickly arrived within a few kilometers of the kidnapping site, taking control of the bandits. April cried uncontrollably, "Uncle, why are you only paying attention to that little bitch? You don't care that the old hag is bullying me." Christian furrowed his brow at her. "When did you learn to swim? I saw you were quite agile just now. Or are you saying you've been deceiving me all along?" What else did April deceive him about? Her depression was fake. She used Christian's money to bribe doctors, emphasizing the trauma from her childhood. Taking advantage of this, April bullied her classmates, threw acid on other girls, and nearly cut Christian's former blind date with a blade. In the past, Christian believed April's lies. Everything stemmed from her depression. When I confronted the bribed psychologist I brought over from America, everything became clear. Chapter 25. The thug confessed that it was April who paid him to kidnap. If I were to tragically perish in the sea, she would become Christian's only woman. The matter has been exposed. April pleaded bitterly, "Uncle, I am of age now. Dad saved your life, not so you could send me to prison." Christian remained unmoved. "I have given you many chances, but this time you have touched my reverse scale. I have investigated her past actions thoroughly. Even if Christian intended to cover it up, he could not escape the punishment of the law." Chapter 26. Christian finally relented and agreed to divorce. He looked at me with a heavy gaze. I faced him in silence. In the garden, the flowers he had replanted, only to be burned by April with gasoline, emitted a foul, decaying odor. The late sunlight cannot save the withered roses. Christian showed a look of despair. "Helen, You won't forgive me, will you? Yes. I learned from April that before I married Christian, she had given me some sterilization drug from who knows where. Fortunately, I thought the taste was strange and only took one sip. After Christian learned the truth, he rushed to take her to America that night. I'll use my poor health as an excuse to delay having children, letting Aunt Wang prepare special nourishing soup for me to gradually recover. He was worried I would cause trouble for April, so he simply said nothing, neither bright nor upright. People always leave only after exhausting all their expectations. I have no need to invite those who don't share my values into my life to serve them. Chapter 27. When he learned about my pregnancy, Christian sent over billions worth of jewelry. I did not refuse. Raising a child can be quite expensive. Father earnestly advised me to get back together with Christian. It's just some trivial matters. That girl was sent to prison by him. I heard she offended the big sister and got beaten up so badly that she lost a kidney. What do you have to be concerned about? Now that a daughter is born, hurry up and remarry him. And having a son is the hard truth. Otherwise, in the future, the property will benefit others. I scoffed. Do you think that just because you gave birth to me, you can dictate my life? If I marry Christian, the money you earn will be far more than that. Your son is still young and indulges in drinking, gambling, and womanizing. I see that you are not really looking out for me. You just want to save up more money for him. Be more mindful. Given your father-daughter relationship, I advise you to check your blood ties with him. Your cheap son is looking more and more like Auntie's personal bodyguard. How astute my father is. Indeed, he discovered that Auntie had a child to deceive him in her quest for power. He immediately made her leave with nothing, driving the illegitimate child he had raised for many years out of the house. Auntie came to me in a fit of rage. You ruined my happiness to take revenge on your mother. Are you happy now? Of course. Enduring revenge. It's never too late after 10 years. She wanted to pounce on me, but was hit on the head like a wooden fish by Aunt Wang with a spatula, causing her to flee quickly. Aunt, unable to bear it, drove to a mutual destruction with my father, resulting in one dead and one crippled. The cheap younger brother owes a large sum of debt with no one to repay it. The bodyguard fled without a trace. The yellow-haired kid was also fleeing on the road out of City A, having his legs chopped off by the creditors. Chapter 28. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. My daughter Laura has grown into a lovely little girl. On that soft green grass, she ran joyfully. Christian appeared out of nowhere. I raised an eyebrow. What are you doing here? To see my daughter. He said it with complete candor. After I got pregnant, Christian secretly sent the best medical team and arranged everything for the delivery. When my father's company faced a crisis, he helped me in secret time and again. I am not being pretentious. This is what he owes me. If it weren't for my efforts to turn the situation around, Christian would owe me more than just a life. I have not given up on studying business management, using the resources of the Law family. I slowly elevated the Liu family to be on par with him. I didn't stop my daughter from calling him dad either. It's her right. Unfortunately, Laura has not shown Christian a single bit of kindness. People in the circle say that the once unattainable Law was as humble as a stray dog in front of the two women with the surname Liu. Aunt Wang rolled up her sleeves to make dumplings for me, curiously asking, "Madam, the young master has always refused to remarry. Would you consider having that kind of relationship with him?" I smiled and shook my head. Life is like a train heading towards the grave. Along the way there will be many stops, and it's hard for anyone to accompany you all the way to the end. When the person accompanying you has to get off, even if you are reluctant, you should be grateful, and then wave goodbye. From Christian breaking boundaries and favoring the scheming April onward, we were destined to part ways. Chapter 29. Laura has disliked candy and frilly dresses since she was 1 year old. After she learned to walk, she fell in love with knights and swords. Christian, like a loyal servant, took her to the horse farm, holding her as they rode around. I have never seen such a brave girl who loves adventure. Don't cry if it hurts. If you fall, bravely get back up. Christian watched with tears streaming down his face, wishing he could bring her to the conference room every day to listen in, so she could take over the family business in the future. I have no comment. As long as my daughter is happy, She can do whatever she wants. Lara was born to swim. When the coach first threw her into the water, the little girl was like a joyful mermaid, bubbling with excitement as she swam. There is a softness deep in my heart. In this world, there is always someone who is your salvation. Thank the heavens for allowing me to meet Lara. I changed the fate of the wicked female antagonist and encountered the most beautiful little girl in the world. May you be independent and strong in the future. May you achieve all that you desire. And may you journey through the thorny path of life with a heart full of adventure and wisdom, unafraid to move forward.